Night waking is something that many of us will experience with our little ones. Sometimes night waking is really normal and natural, of course, and other times night waking can be preventable. Today I'm going to be talking about night waking between 7 p.m. and 12 midnight, and I'm going to cover some of the causes that might be really easy fixes and some of the causes that might be a wee bit more complicated. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm Little Ones Village team leader. I'm a qualified paediatric sleep consultant and I am mother to Heather and to Carrick. Little Ones have helped hundreds of thousands of families navigating baby sleep challenges, just like some of the baby sleep challenges you're going through right now, and we would love to help you too. We have a comprehensive online baby sleep programme. If you would like some more information on this, the link is in the description below to our website, which will give you a lot more information on that. And the address is www.little1s.co. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel. And if you hit the little bell button in the corner, you'll be notified whenever we publish any new sleep videos. So today's sleep question is, what causes night waking between 7 p.m. and midnight? So first of all, I'm going to cover something that can be related to babies and children of all ages, and then I'll move into things a little bit more in depth in specific age brackets. So what are the things that we can possibly change if we're not already doing so to help that period of sleep between 7 and 12? Make sure your baby's room is really, really dark. We want to do this for two reasons. Darkness is totally unstimulating, and if the environment that your baby is going to sleep in is stimulating, they're far more likely to wake and or find it really hard to get back to sleep. Darkness also plays a crucial role in the production of melatonin. When your baby's born, it has a maternal stash of melatonin, and come 8 weeks, that is completely worn off and your baby has to start making its own sleep hormone, melatonin. That sleep hormone is produced in the dark, so the darker the room, the better. It's also a good idea to play continual white noise, more specifically for children under 12 months, although it can still benefit children over 12 months, especially if you have a noisy house like I do with dogs, other kids, people coming and going, etc, etc. So it works really well as a noise blocker, so external noise is not as likely to wake them up if you've got their white noise going all the time. But it's important to mention, of course, as well, that for young babies, especially for newborns, white noise mimics that really noisy womb that they've come from. So it's really comforting for them and it can help them nod off to sleep. It can also help them stay asleep, so keep it on for the duration of all their sleep. So that's all of their naps and all of their overnight sleep. Make sure your baby is dressed well for the temperature of the room. If anything is bothering them and they're uncomfortable, they're more likely to wake between 7 and midnight out of that deep sleep. So if they're too hot or if they're too cold, they're more likely to wake. It's also worth mentioning here that some babies will wake if they are uncomfortable due to any underlying reason. So if they have reflux or allergies, they could be waking out of that deepest sleep simply because they're really uncomfortable. And of course, if that is something that you feel your baby is struggling with, it's always a good idea to chat to your doctor about that and see if you can seek some extra help. Obviously, something that affects babies of all age and our children is their nap structure during the day and when their bedtime is. So we are really talking about children that are working to a 7 to 7 day, so waking between 6 and 7 in the morning and going to bed at 7 at night. We want to make sure that the nap pattern across the day is appropriate for their age, so they're not having too much or too little day sleep. It's worth mentioning here too that when they have that sleep is really important as well, because if your baby is having much too long a sleep in the late afternoon, then they're not building up enough sleep pressure right across their day to go to bed at 7 and to stay asleep. So with that being said, all of those things relating to babies and children of all age ranges, let's talk a little bit more about what can happen in each specific age bracket. So let's talk about newborns now. So newborns obviously might wake because they're hungry, and that is absolutely natural and it's absolutely normal for them to do so. So if they wake between 7 and midnight, You want to give them a nice full feed, make sure they wind really well during and after their feed so that they're not likely to wake up uncomfortable, grunting, groaning, kicking because of that trapped wind, and then settle them back to bed and off to sleep. If though you find your newborn is waking up and is really hard to get back to sleep, then that might be something more to do with the sleep that they're having in the day, and it's worthwhile checking that they're not having too much or too little day sleep or sleep just at the wrong time. If you can rule that out, they should be able to settle back to sleep after a nice feed. Between 3 and 6 months, there is a huge amount of development going on. I'm sure most of you that are watching this are aware of the 4-month regression or have heard about it. So I'll touch on that just now and tell you why that can impact this sleep between 7 and midnight. When your baby is going through the 4-month regression, their sleep cycles are maturing. I know it sounds like it's a regression and it can feel like you're taking a step backwards rather than moving forwards, but your baby's sleep cycles are maturing to what yours are and mine are as an adult. That means that daytime sleep cycles can become around 45 minutes and overnight sleep cycles are 2 hourly, but that is followed by a first sleep cycle of 45 minutes. So during the 4-month sleep regression, which can happen anytime actually, it can happen before the 4-month marker, so around about 3 months. It can happen after the 4-month marker, around about 5 months. The biggest sign that your baby's going through it is that you will visibly notice their sleep cycles are changing. So they might start waking 45 minutes after bedtime and 2 hourly overnight. For some babies, they might well be able to sleep pretty well between 7 and 12, because remember, that's our deepest sleep. And then you might see the 2 hourly wake-ups after midnight. But for others, they'll wake 45 minutes after bedtime and 2 hourly after that. So what can you do to help that? Well, this is where self-settling really is key. So you want them to be able to go into bed, off to sleep themselves without any parental assistance like walking, patting, stroking to sleep or feeding to sleep. And once they can do that, they'll be in a much better position to be able to link their sleep cycles, or if they wake up, to get back to sleep themselves. If you are struggling at all with guiding your baby gently towards self-settling, please do reach out to us in the app. Again, the links in the description below, and we can help you with that self-settling, because it will make a difference if you're struggling with lots of wakes overnight. Another thing to mention within this age group too is dummies, because if your baby has a dummy, this is what we call a parent-controlled sleep association. And we call it that because in this age group, your baby won't be able to find their dummy yet and pop it in their mouth themselves. Beyond 6 months, they're far more likely to be able to do this, and it no longer is a parent-controlled sleep association, because they should be able to have the cognitive powers and the dexterity to seek, find and pop it in the mouth themselves. But until they can do that, you need to do that for them, and that can mean at the end of each sleep cycle overnight. So it's quite a lot of replacing, but it's absolutely fine if that's what you want to do. Just watch, because dummies can also mask hunger. So if you find that you're popping your baby's dummy in at 10 o'clock in the evening and they're waking up at 10, 20, 10, 30, 10, 50, 10 past 11, it's probably masking hunger. So if you're replacing the dummy and they're waking really soon after, offer them a full feed. If they go back to sleep and sleep nice and sound until the next dummy run, then that's fine. Between the ages of 4 and 6 months, a lot of babies that were sleeping nicely through the night or only waking once for a feed can start to wake up again, or can start to wake up for a second time to feed. This is because between the ages of 4 and 6 months, your babies are gearing up to start solids, and their milk quota that they're having in the day might not be enough to sustain them for that full 12-hour overnight sleep. So totally normal, totally natural for them to start to wake again or to wake for an additional feed overnight. The main thing to look at here is their breakfast feed. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, if you find that their breakfast feed is really low and they've started to wake again for a feed or a second feed overnight, then it's probably the case that they're having a little too much milk overnight, and you might need to look at reducing that ever so slightly so that you get a big full feed in the morning to set them up for the day. Okay, let's move on again to another age range. So between 6 and 8 months this time, we are experiencing a nap transition. So most babies will be napping a morning nap, a nice long afternoon nap, and then a short nap in the afternoon. The afternoon nap will gradually decrease, and that makes it slightly easier to drop, of course, when you're not relying on a big long nap in the afternoon. Big long naps in the afternoon obviously really impact your baby's sleep pressure. So if sleep pressure is low going to bed, then they can't stay asleep between 7 p.m. and midnight. And between 6 and 8 months, they're going to naturally be gearing up to dropping that third nap. So if your little one is still having a third nap late afternoon, or if that third nap is possibly quite a long nap, then you might have to think about reducing it and or dropping it. When you do drop the nap, it's a good idea to bring bedtime slightly earlier to help stop them getting overtired. Let's talk a little bit about regressions, seeing as we're in the 6 to 8 month brackets. So between 8 and 10 months, your baby can go through a sleep regression, and this regression is really just down to development. So if you can see your baby trying really hard during the day to crawl, to pull up to a stand, to cruise the furniture, to sit themselves up without any help, then until they nail those skills, sleep is likely going to be affected. So if you see that happening during the day with their development, and you have a bit more night waking and you have waking between 7 p.m. and midnight, it's most likely down to the development that they're going through, and the sleep should settle down itself once they've nailed those skills. Around about 12 to 15 months, your baby's going to go through another nap transition. So between 6 and 8 months, they're going to drop the third nap, the last nap of the day, and between 12 and 15 months, they're going to drop the nap in the morning. So they're just left with one nice long sleep in the middle of the day. If you find that your toddler between 12 and 15 months is not really going through any massive amount of development, I mean, obviously, if they're really trying to start walking and they start waking overnight, it's probably related to the walking and really trying to nail that. However, if everything's quite plain sailing during the day, but you're experiencing more night wakes between 7 p.m. and midnight that you didn't have before, this could be a signal that they're ready to drop the morning nap. So, as a quick overview, there are some things that we can put in place for all of our children to help that sleep between 7 and midnight. And always remember that that should be their deepest sleep. So if all their ducks are in a row, they're not going through one of these natural regressions and periods of development, then they should be able to sleep quite soundly at that point in time. Thank you so much for listening to me today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and try to help you with your baby sleep challenges. And I really hope that you found this video informative and helpful. To help you a little bit more, I have put some links in the description below to some of our blogs that cover bits that I've discussed today in a bit more detail. The blog links that I've put below are Sleeping Like a Baby, When Baby Wakes Every 2 hours all night long, and another one which is covering the developmental changes between 3 and 6 months. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so now, and again, if you click the bell button, you'll be notified of any new videos that we have and when we release them. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I'll catch you all again soon.